most followed abduction that I could ever remember in my lifetime. I remember how sad I was, and you probably do as well. How sad were we to think of this poor family, this sweet girl that was taken? And how do we keep and prevent our own family from having that happen to us? I'll never forget the day, however, that she was found. I was sitting with one of the editors of the top newspaper in our state of Utah, and they were doing the very first cover article of my career. I was so excited. And I said, so when will this be printed? They said, it'll be printed on Sunday. It'll be this huge thing. You'll be the cover story. I was like, that'll be amazing. It'll be the launch of your career, they said. Awesome. Barring anything huge or cataclysmic happening that we can't foresee, you'll be the cover. And right as this guy stood up to leave, he picked up the phone and he received a phone call, and he said, "Are you sure?" And they said, "Yes." And when he hung up, he said, "They found Elizabeth Smart. You're not going to be the cover." And I was so happy. We hugged and we cried. This was somebody we'd all been looking for. We had investment in this person we didn't know. And here she is today, ladies and gentlemen. This is a young lady who has become a woman that has taught us that we can go through something so horrific and still come out of it an incredible activist. Go and do legislation with Congress about helping young people. She's even set up a foundation, the Elizabeth Smart Foundation, which educates and inspires young people how to protect themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, this might just be one of the great honors of my entire career. Not only losing the cover story to her all those years ago, but right now to introduce to you an angel among us, a miracle coming to our stage. Younique, please put your hands together for the lovely, the radiant, the amazing Elizabeth Smart.
Thank you so much for having me here today. It truly is a pleasure, and I know very little about Younique, but the more and more I find out about it, the more and more I'm excited about it. As I was sitting backstage and I heard the movie come on and everyone talking about the statistics and everything, I sat and thought, wait a second, this is all stuff I say almost every day. How amazing is that? And sometimes when I go out and speak, or when I'm out talking to legislatures or trying to work with different groups, I feel like I'm hitting my head against a brick wall because it's so hard. And so it is so encouraging and inspiring for me to hear about Younique's foundation and what they're doing for women and what they're doing to defend innocence and to protect children. That is so inspiring to me, and I'm so truly honored to be here with you today. I have had just such incredible experiences to travel around the United States and to speak to many different groups and work with many different people, and it's been amazing. And the one thing that I have constantly found out over and over again to be true is that we all have problems. I don't think I've ever met anybody who hasn't had a problem. I mean, we all have a story that could break each other's hearts. That's the one thing all of us have in common. We all have our problems, and they're not always the same, and they're on different scales, magnitudes, completely different. Just completely different from anybody else's. You just can't compare them. And I've realized that it's not so much what happens to us that defines who we are. It's really the choices that we make that define who we are. As a 14-year-old girl, well, my entire life up until 14 years old, well, up until really much later than that. I never, ever imagined that that anyone would know me, that I would ever do public speaking. I mean, the thought of standing up on a stage in front of people speaking petrified me. I mean, I would rather, I don't know, scrub toilets all day than speak to an audience. That, to me, sounded like the most scary thing in the world. And yet somehow here I am. But also, as a 14-year-old, I was very shy, very quiet, just happy to more or less be a wallflower. I remember I was right about to graduate from junior high, and I was so excited to graduate from junior high. I don't know how it was for everyone here, but I can basically sum up my entire junior high experience in one word: awkward. I could not wait to go to high school. Somehow in my mind, I imagined that the transition from junior high to high school would make all the awkwardness disappear. It didn't, but I thought that it would. And I just remember being so excited to pick my own classes, to be able to be on that A and B day block schedule. So you have the same classes every other day, because in my mind, that just seems so grown up. And also, it gave me a whole extra day to procrastinate my homework. Not that I ever did, but that just sounded fantastic. And I couldn't wait. I mean, I'd be turning 16, I would learn how to drive a car, I could join clubs, I could join sports teams. I couldn't wait. I was so excited for high school. And the night before I was about to graduate from junior high, I remember going home and begging my parents to let me go on a trip with my best friend. She had talked to me and she said, "Oh, Elizabeth, you know, as our graduation present, come on this trip with me. It's gonna be so great. It's gonna be so fun. You have to come." And I got so excited that, oh, wow, that is so grown up. I have got to go. And I remember going home and begging my parents. And my parents, they were not too excited about the idea of me going away on a trip with my best friend, albeit it was going to be with her family. In fact, it was only to her grandparents. And it was more the reason that they wanted us to go on a family vacation instead of me just off with my friends. But I kept at it, persevered, and finally they gave in. That's a pretty big deal in my family. My parents generally never give in, but they did, and I was so excited. I remember running in and calling my friend up and just saying, "Oh, I can come, I can come." And as I was running out to the phone, my older brother, I'm second of 6 kids. I have 4 brothers. One of them is older, the rest are younger, and I have a younger sister. And my older brother, well, like all good brothers, he takes his brotherly responsibilities very seriously. I mean, he takes every opportunity he can get to harass us, tease us, drive me within an inch of my sanity. He's very good at that. Anyways, he stopped me on my way out. He said, "Elizabeth, wait. Now, did I hear you say that you're going on a trip with your friend?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm so excited, I can't wait." And he said, "Well, did you say you're going on a trip to Beaver, Utah?" Elizabeth, I thought you had better taste than that. I mean, why would you ever go on a trip to Beaver, Utah? Now, if there's anyone here from Beaver, Utah, I am not trying to offend you. I'm very sorry. I'm sure it's a lovely place. I'm just telling you how it happened. Because there's always one person that comes up to me afterwards and says, I grew up in Beaver, or my grandparents lived there, or we have our family reunion there. So I'm sure it's a great place. I have no doubts. But anyways, back to what happened. My brother, he just kept on saying, Elizabeth, come on, it's Beaver, Utah, like really? And I remember just turning to him and saying, Charles, you're just jealous because you're not going. And he said, well, just answer me this, because I think I know the answer. What exactly are you going to be doing while you're in Beaver, Utah? And I said, well, I don't know, actually. I don't know what we'll be doing. He said, that's exactly what I thought. You don't know what you're going to be doing because there's nothing to do. And I said, well, Charles, maybe there's nothing to do in Beaver, Utah, but at least I will be away from you. And he just did what big brothers do, just kind of smiled, continued teasing, and I turned around and walked up to my room, and I was right about to walk inside my room when I stopped and I said, Charles, what if that was the last thing you ever said to me? And he just kind of looked at me and smiled, turned around and walked off to his room. And I remember walking into my room and crawling in bed next to my younger sister and falling asleep. Well, the next voice that I heard definitely was anything but my older brother's voice. I had never heard this voice before in my entire life. And I couldn't believe it. At first, I thought that this had to be part of a dream. I thought, this is not real, this couldn't possibly be happening. This just has to be part of my imagination. Well, it wasn't. The voice repeated again, saying, I have a knife at your neck, don't make a sound, get up and come with me. And as I lay there, I could feel a knife lying across my neck. And I could feel someone's hand on my arm trying to pull me out of bed. I couldn't believe it was real. But when the connection finally was made in my brain that it was, I had never been so scared in my entire life. I had never had that amount of adrenaline running through my body as I did in that moment. I remember immediately getting up out of bed and doing exactly as this man said, because I didn't know if he'd been through my house already, if he'd killed my parents, if he'd killed my brothers. But the one thing that I did know was that my younger sister was still asleep in bed next to me, and she was still alive. And I didn't want anything to happen to her. And I remember as he led me out through my house, I remember just thinking, wait a second, this cannot be real. Surely, if my parents are alive, they'll wake up. They'll stop this from happening. They'll protect me. And my house at the time, every time you opened a door, beeped. It had an alarm, a security system set up. And I remember as he brought me toward the back kitchen door, he opened the door and the alarm didn't go off. Well, later we found out that the little magnets that controlled the beeping had fallen out of the door. And so that's why it never beeped. He brought me up through my backyard. And for those of you who have not been to Salt Lake, the city is in a valley and it's surrounded by mountains. And the house that I grew up in sits up on one of the sides of the mountains, and our backyard is unfenced, and so you really can go straight from my house just into the wilds of the mountains. And it's a matter of minutes, really. Anyways, he took me up through my backyard, and there's one more residential street between my backyard and, well, nothing, just mountain. And as we came up to the street, all of a sudden he pushed me down behind some bushes, and I didn't know why. I had no idea.